Hey everybody, today we are going to learn about some abstract techniques in Illustrator. I'm going to show you some few helpful hints and tricks to help you with any abstract techniques you may need for your upcoming projects. Alright, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is reset our palette. We'll reset ours to Essentials and I'll go ahead and lock everything up here. We're going to then go to New and then Artboard. Create a new artboard here. And I actually think for this one, I'm going to close this up. I think I'm going to create something a little different just to change it up a bit. Let's create something that is maybe 8 inches by 4 inches. Yeah, that looks good. So something a little more rectangular and horizontal. Alright, so there's a lot of different things we're going to use. We're going to use some tools you may know, some that you may have not really mastered yet. First thing is we're going to deal with the background. And to start with that, we're going to get our shape tool and we're going to go ahead and draw a rectangle on top of our background. And on this rectangle, it doesn't have to be perfect. I usually leave it just a little bit over. I'm using my Option or Alt key, holding Shift as well, and it constrains it uniformly. I'm going to turn off my stroke, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to black. Now, I'm going to set mine to a specific type of black here, and, you know, right there, it's print black, so that will give me a nice uniform black. And at any point when I'm doing this, I can add these to my color swatches and whatnot and create new ones. So just in case I need those. All right, I have my black background here, and let's add a little dimension and light before we get started. We'll use the handy dandy gradient mesh tool, or U on your keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a few points and add some lighting to these points. And you guys can pick whatever colors you want. I expect to see a lot more on your projects than what I have here just in this demo. You guys will be spending hours on this, so make sure you spend the right amount of time here. Go down here and maybe add a little purple. It'll go nice with this. And I'm going to darken that up a little bit, just a little further there. Alrighty. So we may add to that a little later, but right now that is getting to where we like it. Actually, you know what? We'll add some, see what happens if we add an extreme color here. Forgot to click on my gradient mesh tool. There we go. Let's add some lighter color. Good. Yeah, that's getting there. Just something a little different and unique. I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer, and I'm going to rename that layer background, just so I remember. Create a new layer, and I'm going to show you some various effects right now. The first one is to get almost a hazy or blur-like effect in Illustrator. And this is actually a pretty cool tool. It's not essentially something you can find right off the bat. It's a series of methods that will get you a nice result. But let me go ahead and show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and create an ellipse. And I'm going to go ahead and create this. And I want to make this have no stroke. And I'm going to pull mine to a gray value here. All right, we're going to take that ellipse. We're going to actually duplicate it, and we're going to just copy it, and then we can even paste in front, and we're going to scale down, and this is going to give us another ellipse, which I'm going to make 100% white, so 0 all down the board, 255 as well. Alright, now this is a really interesting trick, and again, remember to lock your background, otherwise this will be very confusing. Right now we have nothing special. We have, yes, an abstract shape, non-representational shape. We could duplicate this, we could scale this, we could create this as symbol and spray it with our symbol sprayer. But right now, we're going to use this to create a glow. And it's very, very easy. Go ahead and highlight it, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Object, Blend, and Make. And you'll see what it does is it takes the middle value and actually blends it out slightly, which is really nice. And we'll go then back to that real quick so you guys can see that. Object, Blend. We can even go to Blending Options here, and we can do Smooth Color, and watch what this does here. Okay, nothing. So make sure when you're using these tools, gotta put this back to white here, that you're very aware of where your tool settings are. And that's really important because a lot of times the beginners in Illustrator, you guys are trying to get something done, and overlooking one simple step can really change your whole perspective on things. So again, just be very aware of that blend tool and what it can do and all that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and try this again. And we're going to go back to blend and we'll hit make, and now we have a nice softer, kind of almost a glow to our area here. Alright, so that's one step. Now I'm going to take this step a bit further here, and I'm going to go back a few steps. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the outer ring and I'm going to go to my transparency palette. That's also found under Window and Transparency. There it is. And I'm going to turn the transparency off, 0%. That's a big deal. All right, I'm going to run through the same steps once more, and now watch what happens. Instead of blending to that gray, it's going to feather out to nothing. And now we have a nice, almost like a hazy glow. I'm going to scale it down. Kind of pretty cool stuff. We also have blending modes in here. And we can do overlays, and we can begin using our Alt key to duplicate these. Let's kind of go and make a cool abstract shape here on the side. And it gives us a really, really nice overall haze to it. And the blending modes really react nicely. These are 100% vector, by the way, and they can be scaled, and there's no rasterizing or anti-aliasing or anything like that. Okay, that's one way. Let's work with this now with a line. So I'm going to take the rectangle tool and I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. We're going to copy it, and then we're going to paste in front. We're going to constrain our paste, and we're going to attempt to pull it down here. There we go. I'm going to use my arrow keys to kind of nudge it in the middle. You guys see what I'm going to be making in just a split second here. Go to white. So I want to make something that looks rather like this. It's a stripe. It's nothing absolutely special, but we know with our technique now what we can do with it. So let's take a quick look at this. I'm going to click away here. There you go. So you guys can see we have two shapes. Now, remember the steps from the first one. We have to take our transparency down, and then we highlight both and do Object, Blend, Make. And what that's going to give us is kind of cool. It kind of gives us a glow on our brush, which I think is pretty darn awesome. Now, at this point, you guys could mess around with your shapes more. If you really wanted to, you can start deleting anchor points. I've seen people kind of make them tapered sometimes, which is kind of cool. We'll kind of do that. We'll kind of taper it out a little bit. Kind of messes with our blur a little bit, so I'm going to kind of go back to this. But now what we're going to do is kind of something that we're going to learn with brushes, and we're going to take this and create a brush with it. So we're going to go to our Brushes palette, which is also under Window and Brushes, and we're going to expand this. We're going to drag it and create an art brush. Now once we have our art brush, you want to keep everything the same. And the cool thing about this now is when I go to my brushes, and I'm going to hit 2 and 2 here, double clicked on the brush menu. Now I have something pretty neat. Let me get my brush here and let's draw some shapes. We have a glow brush. Now at any point, if you decide you're drawing and this isn't really working, you can jack your smoothness up. You can really play with your settings. You can see that changes it up. Double click. I'm going to go down a little bit here and move up my fidelity of my edge. There we go. That's a pretty good one. So let's draw a couple of stripes here. A couple stripes here. Stripes here, and so forth. So you guys can see it kind of has that hazy glow to it, which is really nice. This gets extremely nice though, and actually we'll keep it going like this. I'll just make a whole bunch of them. When we start playing with our blending modes. Okay, so it looks kind of ugly right now, but let's see what we can do with this. We'll go to our transparency palette and we'll set all these to overlay. And all of a sudden, we get some interesting techniques. And that's a really cool thing, especially with these brushes, that you can attempt to really make some amazing techniques. Now what I've just done is grab my width tool, and now I can go in here and I can show you guys some cool ways to make some really abstract, maybe tapers and shapes and things like that. I'm going to grab one down here and taper it down and really go through and customize these so they don't look like these generic lines. You can see we went from these simple lines to almost something that is more hazy and smoke-like and actually really, really neat. And it gives us the ability to play with these. You don't have to set it to overlay. You have other settings, for instance, soft light. You can turn your opacity down, and that really helps as well. And you can have it interact with other shapes and really give you a nice light effect. So what you would see as the viewer is we would see roughly, and I'm going to drag with my tool here, we would see this. And so we wouldn't have any of this area up here, but we have the ability to really make some custom shapes. And it's not too bad. I think it looks rather good, and it's a really fast way to start making some abstract shapes. All right, let's try something else. So let's delete, I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to keep these. I like these. And you can see they don't look like much unless you have a background. I'm going to go ahead and get my pen tool, and let's see. Let's draw some shapes here. Draw a shape like that, and then we will make sure we close that out real quick. Click away, click back in, and we will draw a couple shapes like this. It's really nice. Come up here. Maybe we'll get a little wild with it. All right, so 2 lines here. One of them is going to be gray, and one of them is going to be white. Now we can change these to anything, and I'll show you guys that in a few minutes, but I'm going to kind of stick with my blend that I did with these. Now instead of doing a blend up here now, I'm going to use the blend tool. So to use the blend tool, you have to select both options, and we have to go to the blend tool, which is W on your keyboard, so I can hit that and activate it. Double click it, and you will get your specified steps. Now you have smooth color, you can do distance, you can do all sorts of things, but I'm going to start with specified steps. And now you click on one of the ends, go to the other, and then go back, and you're going to get a pretty cool thing called a fractal. So it's a fractal blend, and you guys can see it duplicated all these lines. And if I set it to overlay, actually get something pretty cool. Let me zoom out here. I'm all over the place with this today, guys. There you go. And the cool thing about this is these are still editable. So I can pull these down and really edit the shapes into the way I like. Pretty amazing stuff. This, ability to streamline your workflow is almost, it's almost too helpful at some point, because if doing this by hand would just make this tedious, and it would probably make you not want to kind of produce these same effects here. And so I'm going to kind of adjust this. So now I have that cool effect, and I can do this again. Let's see what these look like on top. I like those, but I want to move them. Let's move them to the back. Right click, arrange, send to back. There we go. And now we're getting something pretty neat. We can duplicate this fractal. Again, you guys know we can rotate. And we can really make that abstract art that is pretty darn nice. So there's a technique for you there as well. At any point, we can also customize shapes and customize the abstractness of it using our work tools. And our work tools are under our width tools, and you can go in there and kind of warp things out, or we have that tool, we have the twirl tool, we have the bloat tool, we have the crystallize tool. Go ahead and explore it. It may look good, it may look really terrible, but you got to try it, right? All right, so pretty cool abstract stuff. Let's see what else we can do here. We learned a little bit about the blend tool. We can use simple shapes. So if I draw an ellipse here, hold shift to constrain it. I'm going to go ahead and make this black. And let's cut out a portion. Go to our direct selection tool, and I'm going to just click. I'm going to click away real quick. I'm going to click in between these 2 points and hit delete. All right, I'm going to get my width tool. And let's see, where's my width tool? Right under there, it's hiding. And I'm going to use my taper. And I'm going to kind of taper down almost to a circle, but not really. Almost make like a coffee stain. And that gives me a neat option to start playing with. I can also, if I don't want it to be so sharp, I can go into any sort of these and I can even roughen my line. This is a great one, so you guys can see that I can make this pretty gnarly looking, a little more hand-drawn using Roughen. I can also do Effect, Transform, or Distort and Transform, Transform. Now this is a really awesome one. Check out what this does. When I hit Preview, nothing much seems to happen, but what I can do now is create, let's say, 50 copies. And I want these 50 copies to move a little over an inch, go this way, each, and we want them to move them up or down that way as well. So what's happening here is kind of cool. You guys may not see it because they're so dark, and I'm going to change the color here in a second. But what we're creating is we're creating basically a fractal using the Transform Effect tool. And our first original image is still very editable. And really, you know, you guys can add a lot of convenience to this. I mean, this is a really impressive tool. We're going to switch over to CMYK mode here, and we're going to get some dark green there, and we'll go to, we're right back at CMYK here, yellow. We'll do a couple more in here, red. To another one, and so you know, there's no rules here, guys. This is just really art at its best. You get to really have some fun with this. You get to understand, you know, these shapes. You get to still edit the shapes. I mean, you guys can't really mess up. You just kind of go where the art takes you. And I think that's what's really cool about this project, where in other projects you're going to deal with realism a lot. In these projects, you have to just deal with, you know, basic colors and shapes and pure design. And what I'm going to do here is kind of scale this up a little bit. And at any point, I can go back and edit this. So how would I do that? Well, if I wanted to, and I'm going to go here and change up some of my profiles and cut down here a little bit. There we go. I can even add a brush to it real quick to show you the difference there. Pretty neat. Go back to the color mode. But what we can do is we can go to our appearance editor right here, and it's also right here, and you'll see all our options are still here. So we have a roughen. So if I don't want that to be rough anymore, I can turn that off. Go back to the smooth line. We have our stroke. We have our transform. So let's say I wanted 100 copies. I can do that, and it will make the adjustment for me. Now, we gotta give it some more room horizontally, I think. We'll hit preview so you can see that. That's actually looking pretty cool right there. I like that. We're gonna keep it there. And what else can we do? Let's add another stroke to it. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. And let's call this stroke, maybe we'll make it pink. That kind of dominates it. Let's lower it down a little bit. Either we could lower the stroke, or we could actually drag these under one another to start getting settings. I think in this one we need to lower it very, very small to start getting a kind of cool kind of look to it. So you guys can see it's very, very user-friendly here. There's not much that can go wrong. And then at any point as well, we have the ability to go and set individual overlays or transparencies to blend these together. we can lower the amount of just a single stroke. This is really helpful too. If, let's say I don't want this stroke to be 100%, I want it to be lower, I can move this down to maybe 50% and it just faintly shows up. So that's the basic abstract techniques you guys are going to be dealing with. I want to see how creative you all can get, and I want to really, challenge you guys to explore just pure design, balance and weight of composition, scale, your line, your texture, all that fun stuff, and really see what you can get out of that. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Good luck on making some abstract art.